Good morning, Internet. The Advanced Knife Bro Video Factory is currently working overtime right now, violating some labor laws to catch up. Christmas is coming, and I have piles of projects to finish, and today's video is regarding the new Demko fixed blades, the Armiger. Hold on, let me consult pronunciation before I continue.
Armiger.
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 And it is nothing but the Armiger patent.
All right, so pronunciation has told me it's either Armiger or Armiger. So it'd be real helpful to have a reply guy telling me the right way to say it. The other day, I had a reply guy telling me the right way to say ambidextrous. I said ambidextrous, and it tweaked him out, you know. And I'm sure this is going to tweak people out. So I'm going to make a call, and it is Armiger. Okay, that's how I wanted to say it to begin with. I don't know if that's right, depending on where you hail from, but we're going to go with Armiger. Armiger. Got it. Now, not only did I have to look up the pronunciation of Armiger, I had to look up the definition because it has never been used in the circles in which I run. Now, Wikipedia really clears it up for me, though. In heraldry, an armiger is a person entitled to use a heraldic achievement, e.g. bear arms or armor bearer, either by hereditary right, grant, matriculation, or assumption of arms. Such a person is said to be armigerious. Armigurus? Armorous? A family or clan likewise. Now, there has never been a collection of words I have understood less. And to be clear, I don't care to know, just so you know. Is it the guy in your family with all the weapons? The weird uncle? The advanced knife bro? Now that I've snuck the dimensions segment upon you, what, is that how an Armiger would do it? Oh, you know what? It looks like Armiger is also a Warhammer thing, and I know someone has already posted that down there anyway in the comments. We're going to give an average weight here, since there isn't much of a difference in weight between the 4 series, and it would be attributable mostly to slightly less metal. Everything else is the same, though. And now, the Armiger 2, we're just going to go with an average again here, because there's a few gram difference at most. Maybe those grams matter to the backpacking crowd. You know, not me. Not you. We don't sweat a few grams. But the backpackers would say, technically we do. Do you weigh in before or after the poop? Your bag doesn't poop, does it? Okay, never mind. So now the Armiger 2 and the Armiger 4. Now, I don't know what happened to the 1 and the 3, but maybe, you know, Andrew doesn't like odd numbers. Now, Andrew and John, the Demkos, and Mike Wallace are the group behind Demko Knives. They recently brought on Mike Wallace. You know, Mike Wallace is a custom knife designer, the one that got me. I've told you this before. I assume Andrew is the main designer of the knives, though. Now, the Armiger series follows up on the Free Reign Fixed Blade series as their production line, which is made in Taiwan. Now, there are Free Reigns that are made here in the U.S., but those are very hard to get. Productions are easier because you can find them at retailers and on their website, which is linked in the description, and a few other places in case they're sold out there. Now, the Armiger series brings sub $100 prices to Demko Knives. I believe these are their first sub $100 prices at $19 for the 2 and $74.99 for the 4, which is good perhaps. You're shopping for that tactical individual in your life. They may need to accessorize a cute chest rig they got for their birthday with the Armiger 4, or you can dangle the 2 from a keychain, maybe the septum ring, an oversized safety pin off the Genkos. I don't know. All kinds of lifestyles follow this channel. So let's look at the 4 first. The 4 comes in, you guessed it, OD or black with 4 profiles each. Guys see a picture of an OD handled knife and say, hell yeah, buddy. Hopefully within these blade profiles there's one for every style of knife person. They're all coated EDC V2 tool steel. Now, tool steels generally are high carbon steels used in cutting tools, which can be blade saws, bits, dies, or reamers. Not sure what a reamer looks like. Okay, I have an idea. Now, generally speaking, a tool steel would be a little more rust and stain resistant than what's referred to as carbon steels, but not much, which is why they're coated here. Hey, please don't tell me what a reamer is down in the comments. I get it. It was just an offhanded comment. Now, as a point in the knife world, there seems to be the 4 types of steels which fall into colloquial categories rather than technical ones. Or you could just be like Fiskars here and not publish what steel you use. This axe head's pretty good, but I don't know what's in it. They don't list it anywhere, and people speculate on internet forums what it is. but it's pretty good. I mean, the axe can handle the hard-ass California wood. You can nope out of the next, like, 4 minutes, 2 minutes of me talking about this if you know about steels. But in your air quotes, you have the carbon steels, the first of the categories, like 5160 and 1095. Then secondly, what knife people call tool steels, like your D2s, your 80 CRV2s, your 52-100s, your M4s. These are used in tooling, though. Your stainless steels, your next one, your third category, the 420s, the 440s, the S30Vs, and a ton more, like a 154 CM, I think, would fall in there. And finally, your super steels. Now, super steel is the all-encompassing category of generally more stain-resistant steels or rust-resistant steels developed to sell expensive knives to knife collectors who fantasize about hard-wearing steel while the knives sit in their retail boxes. You gotta keep the retail boxes. You can't resell them for a higher price than you pay for them if you're flipping them. And those would be steels such as M390, M398, LMAX, MagnaCut, just to name only a few. Now, we have to create a new term in the knife world for stainless because it sounds nicer than stainless. That's why we call these super steels, because they are a more wear-resistant version. You can cut longer with them. They're formulated, okay? I'm not saying that it's just like selling you snake oil. It's not true. I mean, there's a little truth, but it's not 100% true. It's like 20% snake oil, 80% truth. But those are the four main loose categories that all have overlap. Now, a carbon steel like 1095 can be called high carbon, and also stainless steels you'll see referred to as high carbon as well. Now, I don't know where I was going with this other than you cannot rely on those four categories as technical, but more as groups of similar steels that have similar-ish properties that knife people understand. Just like you can't really rely on the descriptor of high carbon to tell you anything about its edge retention or corrosion resistance properties. Now, one definition of high carbon steel copied all over the internet is any knife steel whose content is between 0.6 to 1.5% carbon. And if you head over to Knife Steel Nerds, you can see the popular knife steels range in carbon content from the very rust resistant to the non-rust resistant at 0.3 to 3.4%. The amount of carbon in a blade does not necessarily translate into how corrosion resistant a knife is or isn't. There are extremely low carbon content steels like LC200N, which is often referred to as rust proof, like in my Spyderco Caribbean. And then higher content carbon, like in the M398, which is also pretty corrosion resistant according to Knife Steel Nerds. However, it is not rust proof either. The colloquial categories from 20 to 30 years ago are not necessarily keeping up with the steel composition and their uses in modern knives. Now that said, after that rant, ADCR-V2 is not very corrosion resistant, so make sure you dry your edge and keep it lubed when not in use. Will we call it ADCR-V2 carbon, or will we call it a tool steel? Who knows? Because you call M4, that falls in the colloquial category of tool steel, but you wouldn't call it a carbon steel because you're going to call 1095 a carbon steel. You see how confusing that is? I'm illustrating the confusion that sets in when you think about it. And instead of just taking at face value the product description of a knife steel in one of those four commonly used steel categories, just head on over to a link in the description from Knife Steel Nerds, which includes steel compositions of your blades and its relative rating to how tough, how good it holds an edge, how well it holds an edge, and its corrosion resistance. And of course, the toughness and edge retention are entirely dependent upon the heat treatment and hardness, which vary from knife maker to knife maker. But my brain hurts, and hopefully yours does too. That's why I just collect knives primarily because I think they look cool and sharpen them when they get dull on my made-for-idiot sharpening systems like my work sharps. Do I have a favorite steel? Sure, all of them. So the four blade categories on the Demko are clip point. This is the Armiger 4, the best for batoning. And then not the best for batoning like in comparison to all knives, but the best in this group. Then the Tanto, I guess you could baton with this one too, for the piercing of the armor of the foes and the breaching. And then you got your spear serrated, which has an edge on one full side and nearly half of the other side. Kind of like a dagger a little bit. I see the term first responder used with the serrateds, as you may be sawing through seatbelts with them all day. And then the spear, which is like the serrated full sharpened one, you know, it's got the same edge ratio, but it's not serrated. Mainly for stabbing dudes or in the murky category of a survival knife. Now, if you're trying to define what is and what isn't a carbon steel, try defining what is and isn't a survival knife. How about all knives are survival knives? If all knife steel blades have an amount of carbon, then all knife blades are carbon steel. You know, why not? Now let's look at the Armiger 2, which includes 2 blade profiles, what they call the shark's foot, which is a Wharncliffe or sheep's foot style. Had a guy take issue with my calling the Winter Blade Co. Severin a Wharncliffe instead of a sheep's foot, or it wasn't even a sheep's foot, it was probably like a ram's foot. He's trying to get me to a ram's foot. You know what? I can't handle that. Sheep's foot, Wharncliffe. There's so many different variations in modern blade styles, and it's not really they're not used for what they were traditionally used for. And people remix the blade profiles, the blade shapes, and it's really hard to tell anymore. So just call it whatever the fuck you want. Now, these are both available in plain edges too. Although, you know what? Why not serrated? As these are generally what's referred to as your backup knife. So quick and dirty serrated cut on something seems reasonable, your cardboard, your Amazon packages, a rip strip of your Genkos, or your finger, probably, you know, most likely. You're not paying attention. Now, these are extremely lightweight and made from a 4034 SS, which I learned from the Cedric and Ada, channel, Pete. But he said it's 420 HC stainless, and I did a little of my own research after reading that, and he is in fact correct. So like in your standard Leatherman blades or lots of buck knives, this is not going to rust very easy, but it will rust if you have your gross body sweat just on it all the time. So if you keep it fairly unnasty and relatively free of your fluids, it shouldn't rust. Shouldn't, but it might. Handles, all wonderful but not removable. If you're familiar with the free rein, it's like those. Also, like a cold steel rubber handle, a thermal plastic rubber that's fairly abrasion resistant and has a nice hand feel. The Armiger 4 is not a massive knife. It's smaller than the free rein, and I would consider it to be in the category of a large folding knife like, say, a Benchmade Crooked River. Both the Armiger 2 and Armiger 4 have tangs that run the full length of the knives, which the end of the tang is exposed on the Armiger 4, which I guess, glass breaking or thumping things, the what have you. Lately on some videos, you get the extremely smart guys saying, those aren't for breaking glass. Yeah, I get it. I get what you can use them for. And then there's the whole full tang versus partial tang. Demko calls these a full tang. There are some knife makers that don't call something a full tang unless you see it exposed all around all edges. Now these are kind of hidden below the thermal rubber handle, but they run the full length and is every bit as durable as a one that runs the entire that you would see hanging out of the knife handle on the top and the bottom side, the spine and the grip area. Sheaths. If you've seen my free rein video, you should have the sheaths on the Armiger 4 are basically the same style. They can be flipped to the right or left side in a blade backward configuration if you'd like, and the durable nylon belt loops with snap and Velcro mean that you can not have to remove your belt to add to your belt, and they are also MOLLE compatible. And then you got the loop near the top of the handle, which if you'd like to mount it upside down, it's an extra safety measure so it doesn't fall out. And one more wonderful thing, you don't even have to swap the belt loop. So all that stuff I told you about swapping it, because the knives all use the exact same sheath and the knife can face either direction. So like you can flip it forward or backward. The sheaths and the knife handles are set up kind of like a dagger handle. And the free reins are not set up like that. If you want to do right or left, you do have to flop the mounting hardware to get it to do right or left configuration carry. So you don't have to do that here if you want to go blade backward or blade forward. You just flop it, so you don't even have to take it apart anymore. How awesome is that? The handles, ambidextrous, they feel the same, which I think is cool. Just remind which direction the knife is facing when you put it away. Armiger 2 sheaths do not include a belt loop, but a swivel clip and a MOLLE compatible screw hole. You can clip it to lots of stuff, slip it in lots of places, I guess. Some quick size comparisons. This is pretty long. We'll first do a single Armiger 4. Here it is once again compared to the free rein, which is a larger knife. Both have a similar hand feel, very neutral. I guess it all depends on the size you're after. Some people like smaller fixed blades. Now compared to the Cold Steel SRK, which is a larger than the free range size knife as well. Popular knife in about a 40 to $110, depending on the type of steel one requires in it. Sanmai being the top end trim steel. One more. Let's do a big folding knife like the Benchmade Crooked River. This is a fun one, you know. I go through phases on it. I carry it, and then it sits and collects dust for long periods of time. It's a good knife. I don't know, maybe it's too big, maybe the handle's too slick, but I like the way it looks. I have done videos on all of these knives. Now, the Armiger 2. Now, I'll be honest, I do not have a lot of fixed blades in this size. They don't do much for me. However, I'd be remiss to say if they didn't hit the spot for a lot of people. Neck knife, the boot knife crowd. I don't understand those guys much, but they do exist, and there are a lot of them out there. Here it is next to the Para 3, which is a folder and quite a bit heavier than the D-Sheath Armiger 2. I think I have a Southern grind around here. Someone gifted me. Is it the Jackal? If I get it wrong, I'll just put an overlay around there when I get to editing. I haven't dug it out and shot the video yet. Most of the video. I've shot some of the video. All right, so that does it. Sorry, that sounded like I was mad. Okay, folks, that about does it. The Armigers can obviously take a whooping. Lots of B-roll in here to fill the spots where I was ranting about blade steel categories. I mean, I knew they would take the beating. You know, if you raise your hands, who didn't think the knives could handle it? I usually know a knife's limits, and I will push the knife to the limits. I try not to push a knife to the limits that I don't think can handle those limits, as to not destroy the knife. I don't know what you get out of destroying knives. I never did a giveaway on the prior Demkos, and I am glad I did not, because now I have all these to add to the big giveaway, like it was planned. They're just sitting in a cabinet right now, not chopping or batoning anything. That means you're going to get used knives when I give them away. That's what we do here. Let's see. Thanks to the Demko team for sending me these for review, and Mr. Mike Wallace for answering all of my occasional dumb questions. And then thanks to the patrons who make it all possible. These are the list of their names. These are the current level. Got about around about 100 patrons somewhere. Help me upgrade my camera and computer gear to keep up with the times. Am I forgetting anything? Yeah, like, subscribe, comment. Thank you for watching these videos, films, video podcasts, vlogs, content, essays,